In 1969, a group of astronauts changed the world. They walked on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
In 1972, our journey ended. We've never been back. 2010 begins a year of change. Private companies are working on next-generation spaceships. Governments are looking to go back to the moon and on to Mars. It's time to look up and dream again. It's time to push humans into the cosmos. It's time to educate and engage the planet. It's time for Spacevidcast.
Welcome to Spacevidcast Live for Friday, April 30th, 2010. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me is a beautiful, lovely, and wonderful Carrie-Ann Higginbotham, and we've got an action-packed epic-sode for you this evening. And we have got a very special guest, someone who's done something that not a lot of people have done.
Yes, crazy. It is Bill Suitor, who is the author of Rocketbelt Pilot's Manual. Here you go. You can get from apogeebooks.com. And he has written a guide to the Bell test rocket belt, which is very cool. And he joined Bell Aerospace Systems, or Aerosystems, I'm sorry, when he was just 19 years old, and is one of the only guys who has flown multiple rocket belts. So I want to welcome Bill Suitor to the show.
Hello there.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Now, we mentioned that you had flown a rocket belt when you were 19 years old, and as I understand it, that was a bit of happenstance. You happen to be the neighbor of someone moderately important. Can you tell us how all of that started?
Well, Wendell Moore was he was a Bell rocket engineer, and he was the one that dreamed up the rocket belt. He was a neighbor of ours, and I used to cut his lawn. The Army contract that the belt was developed under stated that they had to take someone of average draft age, between 18 and 19 years old, with no aviation experience, and prove that they could learn to fly a rocket belt. And it was just, the nepotism is a wonderful thing.
There you go. We're showing
right
pictures
place at the right time.
Oh,
Yep.
go ahead. Sorry, that was my fault. We're actually showing pictures right now of you flying at the Los Angeles Olympic Games, which was, 1984? Is that correct?
Yes, 84, yeah.
That's awesome. And more than 2.5 billion people saw that particular flight, which is unfathomable to me as far as I'm concerned. But then
that ran through my mind.
And
before I took off, I had this thought when I heard the announcer say that there's a worldwide audience of 2.5 billion people. And I said, oh my God, I haven't fallen down in front of anybody in public yet, and this is not the time to do it. And that was the thought that was going through my mind.
Have you ever fallen in front of anyone ever since then, or have you always stuck the landing?
No. Let's see, I had 2 sit-downs when I was in training in 1964. And then in 1995 in Houston, when I was trying to get the belt that I called Pretty Bird, was built. It's a horrible story. But I landed on a grassy slope in the rain, and I lost my footing and sat down. But it wasn't a crash or anything. It was just happened to hit in the mud and the grass. But and lately on YouTube in the last couple of years, there's one fellow that is he's a disaster waiting to happen. My God, I see clips on YouTube all the time of this guy. Leaves me holding my breath.
One of the viewers asked a pretty cool question, which is, can you feel the pressure against the back of your legs when you're taking off and flying?
No, not really. if you stick your legs out into the blast, you can sure feel it. There's about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit of steam coming out of those nozzles. So you don't want to get your feet out there.
Well, and it's important to note, we were just talking about sticking the landing, that there really isn't a parachute or any sort of, landing safety system going on there should the rocket belt happen to fail, correct?
No, there isn't. And number one, in the early development, the belt was never meant to end up in show business and movies and whatnot. Mm-hmm. All that contract was to do was to prove the fact that a man could actually fly with a Buck Rogers type device. And at the time, there were no small jet engines small enough, light enough. And the most proven and safest type of rocket engine at the time was peroxide. It still is. Mm-hmm. Peroxide rockets are the best. And the fact that the Bell belt would only fly 21 and a half seconds was the reason for that was that the contract had so little money in it. They looked for anything around the plant they could find that they could scavenge for parts, and it just so happens that two of the oxygen cylinders from B-29 bomber, which were stainless steel, held about 6 gallons of fuel, which gave you the 21 and a half seconds, and it was a couple of scrounged oxygen bottles that ended up as the fuel tanks. And 21 and a half seconds is really, it's a long, period of time if you watch the sweep hand on a watch. And you can go from standing still to about 70 miles an hour in 2.5 seconds with one of those. There's between 800 and 1,000 horsepower generated by it. So that, it's not, some people refer to it as a jump belt or a jump pack, and it's not. Mm-hmm. It's a fully controlled rocket flying device. You can fly backwards, you can fly forwards, you can spin about your vertical axis, make coordinated turns. We used to say there's 362 degrees of control. And, you can actually, thread the needle, you call it, fly it with incredible accuracy. You can land with just touching one toe like a ballerina and do a pirouette. The way that you can control that much power is amazing. In 1969, Bell flew the jet belt, which was a follow-on contract, and that used a small Williams turbine, and instead of 20 seconds, it would fly for 20 minutes.
Wow.
But it made its acceptance flight, and that was 1969, and all the big cutbacks were going on then with Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. They canceled the Apollo program. They canceled everything, and the jet belt was one of those projects that got the axe. Now, Williams was called Williams International then, up in Walled Lake, Michigan. They built the engine for it. They bought the rights to everything from Bell when the project was canceled, and the engine ended up in the cruise missile. So whenever you see or hear of a Tomahawk cruise missile or a Harpoon cruise missile, that's a jet belt engine flying in there.
Nice.
That's kind of cool. Hey, we had a question coming through Twitter asking what you think of the Martian jetpack, and asking would that still be considered a jetpack?
The Martian jetpack?
I think using the rocket belts on Mars.
Oh, Martin, maybe from
sorry,
New Zealand.
I misread it because I went for Martian, but you're right, the Martin jetpack.
Yeah, they call it a jetpack, and it's not. It's twin ducted fans. It's it's just a takeoff on the Solotrek, and all I've seen it do is, if you want to call flying, it's a almost just hovering. But from the looks of things, he can't seem to get out of the ground wash and the ground effect. And the latest flights I saw was inside a building, because I think, just from what I'm watching there, is that if he was out in the wind would carry him all over the place. It's just got too many moving parts. It's something that's been tried and it didn't work with Solo Trek. And don't say I told you so, but it's not going to work. Too many moving parts, too much. You're taking a reciprocating engine and you're running it through gearboxes and shafts, and all you've done is reinvent the helicopter.
Now, these rocket belts are moderately dangerous. Do you need any sort of license, like an FAA license or anything, to fly them?
No, I think we were nothing but a curiosity to them. What are you going to do in 21 seconds?
I suppose. Oh, what's the highest that you have flown?
Well, as far as going up and down, not going up and landing on the roof of a building or anything, but I've been probably around 150 feet.
Nice.
That's a pretty
and
high...
the problem is the Rocketbelt has what's called a 60% throttle. When Wendell was designing it and building it, he first started out with a squeeze-type throttle, like hydroplanes use, a dead man throttle.
Right.
And that didn't work because as he was trying to learn in this thing and it was thrashing him about, as soon as he'd have a problem, what's your first reaction? You squeeze tight.
Oh,
you
yeah.
hold on. So, he was given it full throttle at the worst time to be doing that. So he came up with a motorcycle-type twist handle. And the human wrist only has about 90 degrees of rotation when it's held vertical. These handles stick straight up and down, by the way.
Right.
And so if you were to ramp the power from 0% to 100% over that 90 degrees, a fully fueled rocket belt weighs about 130 pounds. And let's say the average man is 170 pounds, so you got roughly 300 pounds. When you're taking off with a full load of fuel, you've got to get that 300 pounds moving, and so you're going from zero, and plus the maximum thrust of a rocket belt was about 330 pounds. So you're ramping like 70% of your wrist rotation before you even start to move, so that the controllable part of the twist you have left in your wrist makes flying so sensitive that you can't control it. And then it only gets worse as you're losing 2.5 pounds a second of fuel. So as you're getting down to 17, 18 seconds and you're coming into land, the sensitivity is so high that it's almost impossible to control. So what he came up with is that when you open the throttle, when you first crack it, it's at 60% throttle. You're getting a 240-pound burst of power right from the very beginning. So then you're ramping from 240 to 330 over that full 90 degrees, and it makes it, the curve is much smoother, and you have to go further. So it's much less likely to over-control.
Interesting. One of the things I just want to mention really quickly about the Rocketbelt Pilot's Manual that you wrote is that while it does give a lot of technical information, it reads more like a wonderful story, if I may. It gives a lot of the forward motion, yaw control, and all of the, because you clearly know what you're talking about, but it's fun to see it from your perspective as opposed to this sort of very technical, engineering kind of way you could have written this.
I wrote it.
Go ahead.
I started on it in 1985, 86, and I was aiming at space camp in the Young Astronaut Program, because that's where, there was so much interest in the kids. Always, no matter where you went, no matter what country, the kids were the ones that were interested. So I tried to write it in simple layman's terms that, and man, I learned quick. You don't underestimate the knowledge of kids nowadays. Holy mackerel. They ask me questions that I haven't got a clue how to answer. They really, really are pretty smart.
I love it.
But it isn't like a child's book by any means.
Right.
It's like one size fits all. Whether you're a PhD or a kid in 9th grade or 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it came out that way. Now I have another book that I hope to be coming out with later this year. It's 400 pages instead of the pilot's manual. But this one it's all the funny stories and the human interest stories and everything else, whereas the pilot's manual is the nuts and bolts and mechanical part.
Mm-hmm.
This other is the human end of it. And I've been working on that since 1988. And it's just one of those things where I get an idea and I think, well, I better get back to work on this project and get this thing done. And my God, does the time slip away. So the manuscript's sitting right here, and I have all the photos. I've got 400 photos, whether they want to put that many in it or not. But
wow.
I've got to get them all scanned now and into the text where they go and all, and get it submitted here.
Awesome.
Before I'm gone.
Totally understand. Well, William, you have been an absolute delight. This is totally fascinating, and you've written a wonderful book. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Ben, is there anything else you wanted to?
Well, no, I just wanted to thank you for coming on the show, and you can pick up the Rocketbelt Pilot's Manual from apogeebooks.com. Mm-hmm. And remember, we'll be giving away one copy of this later on in the show to one lucky winner, so you can read tonight's guest's book.
There you go.
So, Bill, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a great night. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about, we got a bunch of space news. We're going to be talking about a little bit of SDO, or as I like to call it, STO. Yeah. We've got...
Is it the SDOoooooh?
No.
Oh.
It's the SDO, yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty awesome. We've got SDO, we've got asteroids destroying the Earth, NASA destroying some
We've
cars.
got a little bit of everything.
And I'm going to pick a fight with NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden. But before we go into break, check this out. We do have a quick clip of Bill Suitor flying the rocket belt, and a little interview afterwards. So we'll be right back. Stay with us.
That's a timer. That's hooked to a buzzer in the back of the helmet here, and we set this for the flight duration. And then when you're halfway through the flight, you get one buzz each second for 5 seconds.
This is to warn you?
Right.
How long does it last up there?
21.5 seconds.
So if you make a mistake, if you don't hear the buzz, you're really in for it.
Well, you can't miss it. You don't actually hear it, you feel it. It's a vibrator that presses against your skull.
If anything should go wrong, how'd you get down? I mean, is there a parachute harness of any kind?
No, we rely on gravity.
Once upon a time, a special few dinosaurs were given a gift. Something that set them apart from everyone else. Flying. If dinosaurs could speak, the orthodox among them would have dismissed the entire notion. Big deal, they would have told themselves. There's nothing up there but empty space. Every good thing in your life is here on the Earth. Food, shelter, company, not to mention greenery. Up there is absolutely nothing. But a strange thing happened. The dinosaurs on the ground died out 65 million years ago. And the ones with the gift of flight, the ones who pioneered the empty space above their heads, well, they're called birds. What's more, there are twice as many species of birds as ground-walking mammals, meaning the flyers have found twice as many ways of making a living in the sky. And flyers, be they birds or flying mammals, live longer than groundlings. Is nature trying to tell us something? Is there another empty space waiting for the flyers among us? Come to the National Space Society's International Space Development Conference in Chicago, May 2010, and wave the other dinosaurs goodbye. Bring space to life by bringing life to space.
I'm not sure if you know this, but the Earth is safe for the next 100 years.
And then what?
Well, then we don't know. Do you know why it's safe?
Because I'm here?
Well, no, but let's find out in some space news.
Space news.
Brought that back. The reason it's safe, well, it's safer than it was before. There's an asteroid that'll be passing by the Earth, and we weren't entirely sure of its trajectory. And recently, it's the Arecibo. I knew I was gonna, you know, when you think about it too much before a show, and you're like, don't mispronounce it, don't mispronounce it, don't. It's like saying BEM PM. And if you don't know what that is, go back and watch our dailies.
Yeah.
They're shorter news
So wait,
shows.
Arecibo actually did something worthwhile for once?
Hey.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know I'm going to get flack for that.
Yeah, you are. Asteroid 2005 YU55, obviously found the later half of the year 2005. Had, I think it was a 1 in a million chance or so of striking the Earth. We thought it was about 200 meters long, and recently it came within 1.5 million miles, which is how many kilometers? 2.3 million kilometers. Well, I like to do it in both, right?
I know you do.
And there's a shot of it.
Looks like Todd.
Well, that's a radio. It looks a lot like Todd, but it's not Todd. But by the way, the moon is named Todd.
Yes.
And is a little bit miffed that we keep calling him the moon.
Right, so
or
we
Luna.
need to reiterate.
Remember,
Todd. Hi, Todd.
Todd. Hello, Todd. So I lost my point. It turns out, after looking at it and doing a little bit of research, it's actually 400 meters across.
Oh.
So if it were to strike us, that equals bad. You know, that's bad. Hitting the Earth is bad. But based on its trajectory, it's not going to hit us for at least the next 100 years.
Okay, good.
So
Yay.
we're good there.
Party like it's
that
1999.
Or 2199? 2099? 2099.
Party like it's 2099.
There you go.
Brent's has a new song.
Pretty well, yes, he does. So that's good news, and I thought that was pretty cool, and that was a really neat image. That was actually the asteroid itself.
That was the asteroid. That was not
Very
Todd.
pixelated asteroid. It was not Todd.
It looks about 400 meters across.
So while we may be safe from asteroids, we're not safe from NASA's balloons.
No.
Have you guys seen this clip? This is pretty epic.
This is
Check this out.
awesome.
Watch this. NASA let a balloon go. Here we go. And this was for the nuclear Compton, the NCT, Nuclear Compton Telescope, I think it is.
Right.
And here we go. Watch this. Just watch this. Oops. Uh-ohs. Uh-ohs.
Especially
we may
with
have to
all
drop
our stuff in the way.
Yeah. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Kath, go back, rewind that, drop the chat room. We're gonna play this again. You gotta see it without the chat room.
You do, because
It's
you
just
got to
that
see
epic.
everything it crashes into.
So let's go back to it. Here we go.
We're not
Check
talking
this
just
out.
little bunny holes.
All right,
There
here
you
it
go.
is. Here it is. This is pretty
So
awesome
that's the balloon,
stuff.
and
There's
you
the
can
balloon.
see its payload connected to the crane, and then wide shot there. And then they go in.
Here we
All
go.
right. So
all right. Now we
there.
release it.
And
oops.
oh.
That's not good. Is that a
Oh.
coffin?
Oh.
Run, people, run!
Oh, gods. Oh.
Oh no, and down.
Oh.
You know, we shouldn't joke. That actually was quite serious.
Quite serious, quite scary. People could have been
People
very
could-
seriously hurt there.
People could have died from that. That was,
Yeah,
ooh.
it's kind of, the balloon is pretty though.
And
when
it
just
is,
kinda
and then the
flutters
whole
down
thing
like
comes
that
down,
slowly.
and then we've got some additional B-roll at the end here that
Yeah.
we'll let it run into. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that the instrument.
Oh, man. Luckily, it only knocked over the one car and popped right over the other car, as you saw earlier.
That is just epic.
That, yeah.
Oh, look at that. Oh, they're so sad.
I just want to clarify really quickly here that ABC News is not the one from America.
No, that's Australia.
This is Australia.
Oh man. So yeah.
Oh,
That's a wasp.
that is a wasp.
So there was the vehicle that got tipped over. And actually, if you watch it, you go back to YouTube and watch the clip again. You can see someone running
You
by
see
the vehicle.
It's
Just this
really
little
hard to
guy
see because they're teeny,
running,
tiny, but
running as
this
he's about to
huge payload.
get crushed by the payload. So yeah, you know, that's sent him back a little bit. That's about $10 million. Interesting things about that: balloons can get about 90 up to 99% above our atmosphere, and they can stay there for 1 to 2 weeks.
Awesome.
So that's why they launch aboard a balloon, because
Right.
it's far less expensive than launching that payload on, say, an Atlas or a Delta rocket of sorts.
Right.
So really cool. They're still out about 10 million, and those we laugh because
We do laugh.
We,
Well, we
you know,
laugh
we're
because
human.
nobody got hurt.
Right. No one
know,
got
I
hurt.
mean,
If someone
it's-
got hurt, it'd be a very different story. But at the same time, the destruction is kind of cool. As long as you didn't work on the project, imagine putting your life into that project and then having that happen. And ow! I mean, that's a lot of hard work that those people
that's-
put into that just got destroyed in a matter of seconds. And there's a quote as to how much they think they can get how much they can get back. I didn't copy the quote,
Okay.
but basically, the gondola carrying the NCT came loose. It hit the launch rig. Whole thing came down. It cost us tens of millions of dollars, or as I like to say, oops. But on a better note,
You do like to say that.
I do. I said that in another.
You said that in the daily.
I did. It was actually written into the script as oops. SDO. I believe the last time we said SDO, no! Well, this time it's SDO, yeah! Because we have got some.
OMGs.
I don't know, I'm on caffeine or something.
You are.
Look at that. That's actually from SDO. A, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
B, a little scary. We're looking at some solar flares going on right there.
Well, that's an inside joke, sorry.
That's just for you, Carrie Ann.
I know.
Look at
My
look at
understanding is that Earth can fit under one of those little flares.
that. The entire planet could fit between the plasma streamers with room to spare.
Oh, God.
And then, so that where they come back, that's a coronal rain, right?
so pretty.
And it's kind of been a mystery because it should fall back faster than it is actually falling, right? So because so you see the corona ejection, and then it rains back down, it gets pulled back into the sun, which makes sense because the sun has immense gravity. But we mathematically should fall faster. But here's where SDO gets really cool. Check out this next SDO clip. It's it's a multicolored. See, in the live video, they can't. In the live video, they had no idea what happened just happened. But in the on-demand video, when you go back and watch this, you're going to laugh because you'll be able to
When
see
you
what
see
just
this-
happened. But are you ready now? Thank you. So this is the.
That's
this is
pretty. That's just pretty.
So this is what helped us figure out what's going on with the coronal rain. The red material is, cooler material is red, hotter material is blue-green. And what happens is when it goes up, the coronal rain is getting cushioned by a layer of gas that SDO was finally able to see. It's the only instrument that's been able to see that. And so that's why it's taking longer to fall back down to the Earth, because it has the Earth. One would hope that does not fall down to Earth.
Well, the best part is you totally missed Uncle BS in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know how earlier you had the song stuck in your head? He said, new song for us, Solar Rain.
Really? I actually had that stuck in my head.
He had Chocolate Rain stuck in his head.
Earlier
Okay, sorry.
tonight. She was playing the Chad Vader version for me. I had the
Solar Rain.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
It gets stuck in
So we
plasma.
had kind of a thumbs down for NASA's balloon, a
Right.
huge thumbs up for SDO. Now I can't really blame NASA for the balloon, right? Balloons are hard to work with.
Yeah.
You get an unforeseen gust of wind. I mean, I'm
and
not
that's
sure I
what
can really.
happened.
I'm not really. Well, no, we really don't know what happened yet. At least my notes say we're not entirely sure.
Oh, sorry.
But let's just say it was a gust of wind. You can't. Come on, right? I can't blame them for that.
Well, if you had an SDO, you could see the wind.
Well, maybe. SDO was just epically cool. But now I'm going to beat up Charlie Bolden. And actually, I agree with NASA Watch on this particular one. Go over to NASA Watch, and there's an article over there that Bolden takes on the media. And basically, the quote is, for my friends in the media, this is NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden said, for my friends in the media, and I think you all know and I think you all know that I mean that in all sincerity, our NASA team cannot be successful in telling our incredible story without your cooperation and assistance. I will always attempt to be responsive to your requests for access within reason. But you are not a friend of the space program when you misrepresent the statements or actions of our dedicated, loyal workforce for the sake of headline-winning story. It goes on from there. There's more on Space Ref, but there's a really interesting point of view, which I completely agree with on NASA Watch. And whether you agree or disagree, head on over to NASA Watch and throw your opinion in there. And the point kind of is this, which is the media wouldn't have to grab for headlines if NASA would actually come out with a plan that, here's what our plan is without kind of going back and forth. For example, fiscal year 2011, Bolden gives his presentation. He says Orion is canceled. President comes back, he says Orion's back on the table, except now it's going to be Orion Light. It's going to be a crew cargo thing only. We're talking in a matter of weeks, we've completely radically changed NASA's policy. Media is having a hard time listening to NASA because NASA keeps changing its story, and NASA's not being abundantly clear, nor are they actually, I know I'm ranting, nor are they actually coming out and saying, here's exactly what we're planning and what we're thinking. Go ahead.
The media is going to look for anything to make a sensational headline anyway.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Period.
They need to get viewers, right? And where I really take issue is,
just saying,
I will always attempt to be responsive to your requests for access within reason.
Within reason.
Well, kind of, except that we had to go to an old traditional media source for us to get access to STS-130, well, to get access for media. We're on Bacon's Media Guide. We are considered a legitimate media outlet.
Yeah, we're
not considered a blog.
We're getting media alerts for things that have absolutely nothing to do with space.
So, yeah, that's weird. And yet
that's how real media we are.
Attempting to be responsive for a request to access, we were denied several times. I think NASA's policy towards media is completely wrong. The idea that they view the media as their friends is completely wrong. There is no weird relationship there like that. Media has their job, NASA has their job. Media is going to sensationalize stuff. NASA shouldn't. Let NASA be NASA.
The other issue is, I'm not completely against Charlie Bolden in these statements.
Kath is laughing at me. Why are you laughing?
Because
who do they think they are? The DOD?
Exactly. He said, who do they think they are? The DOD?
Because when I'm not completely agreeing or disagreeing with Charlie Bolden in all of his statements. However, they have a tendency, NASA has a tendency to give, quote unquote, more access to the major outlets, right?
We'll call them the major four.
Right.
The big four.
Which
big
is
five.
really sad because basically the big four only care for about 2 minutes.
They're going to call you out on it, and they're going to use headlines that are sensational because you're messing up. And so you need to take ownership of that and figure this stuff out. And you need to be very clear and concise in your communications with everyone. Otherwise, they're going to go digging around for sensational headlines. You can't blame the media for that. You've got a completely backwards media policy, in my humble opinion. And it needs to be seriously looked at. Now, ironically, we have not a very good media relationship with NASA. We're trying to improve it, and now I come out and say all of this. But it is what it is, and just because it's not advantageous for us to say it, doesn't mean I'm not going to say it. I would welcome NASA to open their doors up to bloggers, to an Eva Dot, to expand the Twitterverse, understand this whole new media thing that's going on, make it easy for anyone to get access and tell the story. Just because they're a major outlet doesn't mean that they're going to tell the story well. Find people who are creative and can tell the human story of NASA. That's
Yeah,
compelling
we
and
are
engaging.
kind of selling NASA for them, aren't we?
We try to. I mean, we're not anti-NASA by any stretch of the imagination. We're pro-human spaceflight. We think these programs are cool and awesome, and we're not in one camp or the other camp. It's whatever advances the human race. And frankly, traditionally, that has been NASA. And so we are both your biggest promoter and biggest critic at the same time. We want you to succeed. We don't want you to make stupid mistakes. But when you do make stupid mistakes, we're going to call you on it. And I think
That's because these people have names.
these people, you know what? These people do have names. Anyhow, fascinating conversation over at NASA Watch.
Yes.
Head on over to NASA Watch, check it out, and go for there. And speaking of human spaceflight, the final 3 space shuttle missions ever are coming to a close this year still. There's been a slight schedule shift. A payload problem for STS-134, which now makes the numbers go in order conveniently.
Yeah, I think they heard a bunch of people complaining about it.
I don't
They were like,
get
you know
it."
what? Now suddenly everyone's paying attention. Maybe we should just put them in order.
Yep. So STS-132 is coming up. They only have one contingency day in the plan. If they run out of time, there's some, they've got pad flow issues or whatever is going on. They may the time for STS-132 may slide a little bit, but right now it's scheduled for the 12th. Uh-oh.
Yes.
Scheduled for the 12th.
No, wait. The STS-132?
Yes.
It's scheduled for I thought it was the 14th.
14th.
It's a Friday.
It's an even number. I remember it's an even number.
All right, hold on. We can do this. Yep, it's a 14th.
14th. Says it in the chat room right there.
It's Friday the 14th.
Scheduled for the 14th, so that's only a couple weeks away. That will be the final flight of Orbital Vehicle 104, Space Shuttle Atlantis, my personal favorite.
Of which we are desperately trying to get to.
I will make a final decision as to whether we're going down there or not tomorrow. And what's going to be uber super cool is when we put up our new mission clock stats on the screen. For those who don't know, there's this awesome application that you can get from the iTunes App Store called Mission Clock. If you've got an iPod Touch or an iPhone, you can download Mission Clock for just under $5. And it gives you like all the mission statistics, when is it going to launch, what's coming up next in the timeline, all of this great stuff. And it is a stellar application from Jet for Me, who's actually in the chat room over here. And I highly suggest you download it. And we've been working with him to integrate Mission Clock into the Spacevidcast stream. So you're not going to get all the Mission Clock data. If you want all the data, you're going to have to buy the application. But you're going to get some really cool stuff for STS-132. And I'm excited to show you guys that. Now, whether we will be doing extended coverage, still up in the air a little bit. I'll have a decision for you guys next week. We will absolutely be giving you high definition coverage. We're the only place on the planet that offers that, and we're not going to give that up. So you will absolutely have high def coverage. The question will it be just pure NASA TV with our cool graphics over them and no Ben and Carrie Ann with us tweeting? And doing coverage from the press site, or are we going to be able to bring all of our equipment down there and do the high-def feed from Kennedy Space Center, or will we stay up here? I am 95% sure that we are going down there.
The best part is, though, that we do have our STS-132 shirts like we always do.
Yep.
The cute little matching shirts with the patches and stuff, so we will look uber official.
Or nerdy. One of the two, I'm not sure.
I think official.
So STS-132 is coming up. STS-134 has been delayed until November, which means that STS-133, it'll go 132, last flight of Atlantis, 133, last flight of Discovery, and 134, last flight of Space Shuttle Endeavour. And it's still slated to end in 2010. So unless there's another slip for any reason, the Space Shuttle program will end this year. And if you can, get down there, watch a Space Shuttle launch. This is, frankly, this is NASA at its finest. This is what they do well.
This is history in the making. History. This will be in history books. Your children or children's children will read this in the book.
Where were you when the last space shuttle flew? On that note, stay with us, everyone watching live. We'll join you in post-show. If you're not watching live and you'd like to see post-show, sign up for Spacevidcast Epic. It's what helps us go down to Kennedy Space Center to do STS-134 coverage. If we had more subscribers... 132. If we had more subscribers to Epic, we'd be able to make a more certain assessment of it because we'd be able to afford the scary, crazy, expensive bandwidth that they've got down there. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
It's time to look up. It's time to look up. Spacevidcast. Slow down. In 19 1969, astronauts changed. On the moon. In 1972, our journey. We've never.
And I'm a total slacker. I completely forgot the winner.
Easter egg!
The Easter egg. Yeah, did you stay through the credits? Easter egg right here.
Which were really cool too because we changed the music.
Yeah, did you like that?
It was awesome!
Yeah. The winner of Rocketbelt Pilot's Manual is Internet Nomad or iNet Nomad on Twitter because he was the most active on Twitter during the interview.
Right on.
Yep, so I figured
Awesome.
he seemed the most interested, so he absolutely gets the book. So iNet Nomad, we will be in touch with you, and thank you for watching.